The manila envelope on my lap table didn't look like much, but it had more weight than anything anyone had said to me in months. My name is Stella Brooks. I'm 31, a receptionist at a physical therapy clinic off Maple, and 6 months ago I moved into my mum's 2-bedroom after she missed the bottom step of her porch and has shattered her pride along with her wrist. Mum is Margaret, 64, stubborn, and still saying she's fine, even when I'm buttoning her blouse for her. My older brother is Rory, 35, who likes tidy stories more than messy work. His wife is Michaela, 33, good at bright smiles and quieter comments. That's the cast. This apartment is the stage. I shifted my hours to make it work. 8 to 3:30 at the front desk, then home in time for pills at 4, dinner at 6, rides to her own PT twice a week, and all the small things that actually keep a person going. I kept my lease on a tiny studio across town on month to month. I sleep there maybe once a week, sometimes not at all. I didn't advertise that part. If someone wants to think rent-free, they will, no matter what the bank app on my phone says. Numbers are easier than arguments. In the first week after the fall, I put Mum's prescriptions on my card. $124 every refill cycle. 3 different labels with the same last name. The internet bill is $72. Water runs $58. The old flip phone she won't give up costs $40. Groceries are whatever the cart looks like when you buy fruit, milk, and yogurt next to soft bread and soup. I kept the receipts in a shoebox, and then, when the lid stopped closing, in the envelope on my lap, 6 months of those little necessities added up to $2,386. I know because I made a simple spreadsheet in the clinic waiting room one slow Friday with a pencil, dates down one side and amounts down the other, totals at the bottom like a small, quiet truth. When Rory helped at the beginning, he changed Mum's mail to his address to simplify. He said it would keep things from getting lost if she was napping when the mail came. Some of her accounts ended up under his name while I kept paying them. It wasn't malicious so much as convenient. His kind of helpful. He and Michaela came over every Sunday with supermarket flowers or a bakery box, sat at the table, and left with Tupperware. Somewhere between the salad and the cake, one of them would make a joke about me living rent-free, said light like air. Mum would press her napkin flat and look at me without looking at me. Then the dishwasher would run late into the night, like a heartbeat I couldn't shut off. I learned to do the small nursing things, the pill sorter, the soft reminders, the foot on the stair, heel first, the notes on the whiteboard by the door that said PT 2s, Thurs, ride at 1:15. I put my own life on quiet mode. I still went to work, still printed intake forms and answered phones. Good morning, Murray Physical Therapy. This is Stella. I ate half lunches and took calls at the edge of the parking lot when the pharmacy needed clarification and Mum didn't have patience for hold music. I made lists. Lists kept me moving. Mum's birthday was coming up next week. She wanted the good plates out and a chocolate cake from the grocery bakery with the roses made of frosting. She practiced lifting her lipstick with her left hand. It's just dinner, she kept saying, which is the kind of thing people say when they know it isn't. Angela, my friend from high school who works HR now, sat with me at my studio one night while I balanced the last 6 receipts along the coffee table. You don't have to be the generous one in secret, she said, and slid her phone across the table with a template she'd used with her own aunt. Write it down. Give them options that tie money to time. People understand a schedule better than a feeling. So I built an envelope. The front pocket had the photocopies, prescriptions, internet, water, phone, the grocery totals circled. Behind that was a calendar with evenings colour-coded. 2 for me, 2 for Rory and Michaela. 2 we could swap with a day's notice. I typed up a page labelled 2 choices because I didn't want to fight. I wanted a plan. Option A was simple. A transfer for $112 on the 1st, $93 on the 15th, groceries brought by whoever's night it was, 2 evenings a week each. Option B was simpler. I would turn off the autopays I'd set up and move back to my studio at the end of the month. I'd text them the account numbers they'd need, since the bills were already going to their mailbox. I tucked a pen inside the clasp and smoothed the flap. On Sundays, they had their lines, and I had mine. The thing about numbers is that they don't blink when someone makes a joke. They just sit there until someone decides to read them. I set the envelope next to the stack of good plates on the counter and checked the cake order on my phone. The screen lit up with Mum's medication reminder at 4. I stood, filled her glass, and thought about the last step of the porch she fell from. You could stand there and pretend it was a curb. Or you could look down, put your heel first, and take it seriously. We put the good plates on the table, the ones with the faint gold ring that only come out for holidays and apologies. The cake sat on its cardboard round by the knife. The manila envelope was under my elbow, like a quiet promise. Mom dabbed lipstick on in the hall mirror, hand steady enough that the colour stayed inside the lines. "Not bad," she said, and kissed the air, then laughed, because she looked like herself again for a second. I tied a ribbon around the vase for the supermarket flowers before they even got here, just to give them a job. They knocked at 5:30 like always. Rory walked in with the flowers anyway, paper sleeve, damp. "Hey, birthday girl," he said, loud like a TV host. Michaela held a bottle with a bow still on it, and a smile that was all front porch and no living room. "You look beautiful, Margaret," she cooed, and Mum flushed at the compliment, which is Michaela's specialty. Sit, Mum said. "Stella made the roast I like." I had, even though the kitchen had felt like a track meet in slow motion all afternoon. When you cook and care at the same time, you build in pauses. Check the meat, check the pillbox. Answer a text from the pharmacy, adjust the oven, wipe the lipstick smudge from the mirror. We ate in the comfortable clatter families use when they're not saying the right thing. Rory told a story about a guy at his office who microwaves fish. Michaela asked about the clinic and nodded like she knew what an intake form even looked like. Mum took small bites and smiled at the right places. I watched her left hand move to her water glass without the hiccup it had last month and let myself be quietly proud for exactly 1 second. "Therapy okay?" Rory asked Mum, like he was picking a card from a deck. "Fine," she said, which from her means hard and humiliating and necessary. "I'm getting there." Michaela poured a little from the bottle into the short glasses I'd put out. Not the good crystal, because the good crystal has too much to prove. "A toast?" she said, bright as a new penny. Mum reached for her napkin and folded a corner. I could feel the shape of the envelope against my hip, where I'd tucked it when I sat down. The cake knife winked at me under the overhead light. "To Margaret," Michaela said, lifting her glass, "for teaching us generosity and grace. You always make space for people, even to permanent guests who never pay." Forks paused mid-air. The fridge hummed like it had an opinion. Rory huffed a laugh through his nose, the kind he uses when he thinks we're all in on the bit. He didn't look at me. Mum's eyes flicked up to mine, and then down to her napkin, like she was checking if it was dirty. A flush crawled up my neck that had nothing to do with the oven being on too long. "I do pay," I said, because my mouth sometimes forgets to wait for my plan. I took a breath and pushed my chair back anyway, before anyone could turn it into an argument that would leak all over the evening. "I brought something too," I said, voice steady the way phone voices are at work, and stood to get the envelope from the sideboard. I slid it next to the cake knife so it didn't have to compete with the roast. The manila looked plain on the tablecloth, which felt right. Money is plain until people make it fancy. "What's this?" Rory asked, leaning back like the envelope might lunge. "Just something to go through before dessert," I said. "It won't take long." Michaela's smile held, but her eyes moved, checking whether Mom was still smiling too. "Can it wait?" she said, light. "It's a birthday dinner." "It is," I said. "It's also our Sunday, and this is where we see each other. I want to do this together." Mum cleared her throat. A small sound. "Go ahead," she said. and set her napkin down very carefully, corners squared. She wasn't looking at me anymore. She was looking at the edge of the table like it might slide. Rory reached for the bottle again. "If this is about chores or whatever, we can figure it out after cake," he said, vague with the confidence of someone who has never had to pull up a bank app in a bathroom stall. "It's not about chores," I said. "It's just the math of what's been happening and a plan for what happens next." Angela's words ran through my head the way recipes do when you're cooking by heart. Tie money to time, give them options. I kept my fingers on the envelope so I wouldn't tap them on the table. Michaela's smile got an extra coat of gloss. "Stella," she said, like my name was a child's crayon she'd found on the floor. "We're happy to help." "You don't need to—" "I know," I said, and I did not look at her, because when you look at Michaela during a performance, you get cast as the audience. I looked at Mom instead. "This is for all of us." Mum nodded once, tiny. "All right." I slid my thumbnail under the clasp and flipped it open. When I opened it, all the air in the room seemed to sit up. On top were the photocopies, clipped in 3 neat stacks. I slid them out and set them on the table like place settings. "These are the last 6 months," I said, keeping my voice the same one I use at work when I have to explain copays. Prescriptions, internet, water, phone, and groceries. I made a simple spreadsheet with dates and amounts. Total is $2,386. Rory smirked like I'd just played Monopoly too seriously. "We bring stuff too," he said, flicking the corner of a receipt with a fingertip. "Wine isn't free." "I know," I said. "This is just what's been on my card." Mum leaned forward, reading the little black numbers like they were a fortune cookie she didn't order. "That much?" she said, soft. "It adds up," I said. 20 here, 60 there, plus the fixed bills. I tapped the top line. Prescriptions are $124 every refill cycle. Internet is $72. Water averages $58. Phone is $40. Groceries shift, but I circled the totals. Michaela let out a tiny laugh that wasn't friendly. "Stella, this is a lot for a birthday dinner," she said, eyes still smiling. "You could have just asked." "I am asking," I said. Clearly. Rory reached for the spreadsheet and squinted like the numbers might change if he stared them down. "Why are some of these in my name?" he asked, like he'd just discovered a surprise. "Because you changed Mum's mail to your address to simplify," I said. "Some accounts ended up under you while I've been paying them. That's part of why I'm putting this in writing." He made a face that said simple wasn't supposed to bite him. "We can figure it out later," he said, already trying to set the conversation somewhere with no chairs. I slid the calendar out next. "This is the plan part," I said. "Colour-coded evenings for a month. 2 for me every week. 2 for you two. 2 that can be swapped with at least 24 hours notice. I put notes for rides to PT and the pill times, so whoever's on knows what's needed." Michaela leaned in, eyes flicking over the colours like she was shopping. "We both work," she said, sweet and precise. "Evenings are hard." "Same," I said. "That's why it's 2 each. It's doable if we plan." Mum looked at the calendar like it might bite too, then at me. "You made this," she said. It wasn't a question, exactly. It was pride and apology crammed into 4 words. I nodded. I pulled out the page labelled 2 choices, the title bold at the top, because bold helps people not pretend they didn't see it. "Here are the options," I said. "Option A, you send $112 on the 1st and $93 on the 15th every month to cover the fixed costs. We rotate 2 evenings a week each using this calendar, and whoever's night it is brings groceries for that night. No guessing." Rory blinked. "Odd numbers," he said, like the strangeness offended him more than the idea. "It's just the math split out," I said. "Option B, I turn off the autopays I set up, and I move back to my studio at the end of the month. I can text you the account numbers you'll need for the utilities and the pharmacy, since the bills are already going to your mailbox." Michaela's smile snapped at the edges, and then reappeared 2 shades thinner. She rolled her eyes and took a sip she didn't need. "You're being dramatic," she said. This is family. It's practical, I said. Those are the two options I can do. Rory set his glass down too hard, and wine kissed the rim. We don't need to make a federal case, he said. I'll send something. We'll talk later. After cake. Talking later is how we got here, I said, not raising my voice. I work 8 to 3:30. I do meds at 4, dinner at 6, rides to PT on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I've been fronting the costs and the time. If we're all going to keep eating here on Sundays, we're going to share both. Mum put a hand on the table, palm flat, the way she used to when she wanted us to stop arguing in the car. Let her finish, she said. Her lipstick had worn down to a soft stain, and for a second she looked tired and entirely like my mother. I slid the envelope a little closer to Rory and Michaela so they could see the lines and checkboxes. This isn't a fight, I said. It's receipts and options. Michaela clucked her tongue. We have lives, she said. Schedules. That's why there's a schedule, I said, and tapped the calendar again. If you need to swap, text me 24 hours ahead, and it's fine. Rory leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms, the posture he uses when he's sure someone else will move first. We'll figure it out, he said again, as if the words were a credit card that could throw money at the problem later. I felt my heel anchor against the floor, like I was remembering stairs. We're figuring it out now, I said. Silence, except for the fridge, humming its steady hum, like a metronome for adult decisions. I slid my finger under the next set of papers, the ones I hadn't shown yet. The last page had been waiting like a loaded dishwasher, everything slotted in, ready. I flipped to the last page and it wasn't dramatic. It was final. I turned the stack and slid the last page out, so it sat centered between the plates. This is the part that makes it real, I said. At the top was a simple care agreement with 2 checkboxes, option A and option B, and signature lines. Mum's name was already there in blue ink, neat and careful, next to a small stamped seal. I had Tabitha from across the hall witness Mum's signature this afternoon, I said. Tabitha Clayton. She's a notary. Mum lifted her chin a little. She brought that little stamp, she said, like she was describing a bird she'd seen out the window. Made it official. Rory's eyebrows shot up. You had a notary over? He pushed his chair back a half inch, like the table had moved. She was coming by anyway, I said. Tabitha brings her mail when the carrier misdelivers. She had texted me that she was home at 3. Mum signed while the oven preheated. It took 5 minutes and a glass of water. Michaela's smile fell off her face like a magnet sliding down the fridge. Stella, she said, voice flat now. You didn't need to. I did, I said, because when things are written down, nobody gets to pretend they didn't hear them. Under the agreement, I'd clipped a second sheet. And this, I said, tapping it lightly, is an intent to vacate caregiver notice from me, dated the last day of this month. My signature was already there, plain and spelled right. If option B is what you choose, or if there's no choice made, then I move back to my studio and you two take over completely. Rory barked a laugh that didn't have any joy in it. We don't need paperwork, he said. We are family. That's exactly why the paperwork exists, I said. My voice stayed in its work register. So there's a plan instead of a feeling. Mum's hand was back on the table, flat. I asked her to, she said to the space between my brother and his wife. So I would stop worrying. I slid 2 pens from the envelope pocket and set them by the plates like silverware. There are authorization forms too, I said, pulling those out. Mum signed them so utilities can talk to me until you take over, because right now some of the accounts are in your name, but on my card. And a note reminding you the bills are being mailed to your address because you changed it, Rory. He looked at the forms like they were written in a language he should know. I changed the mail so it wouldn't get lost, he said, defensive out of habit. I know, I said. This just lines up who's responsible for what. Michaela pressed her lips together and ran a fingertip along the care agreement like she might find a typo. Option A says money twice a month, she said. Electronic transfer? Same as you send for birthday gifts, I said. $112 on the first $93 on the 15th. Or option B, where I cancel the autopays I set up and you handle it all yourselves. Her eyes flicked to the clock behind me and back like she was measuring how long she had to perform. This is a lot for a Sunday, she said. It's less than what Monday will be if we don't decide, I said. I slid the agreement a fraction closer. Deadline's the 5th. If funds post and we sign, we do option A. If nothing posts, I'll cancel the autopays tomorrow morning and option B starts. Rory shoved his chair all the way back, legs scraping tile. You're not going to hold Mum hostage with your little ultimatum, he said, but his voice didn't fill the room the way he thought it would. No one's held, I said. She's cared for, with a schedule and a budget. Mum let out a breath. I don't like this fighting, she said, soft, and there was the old warning under it. I want to eat my cake. We will, I said. We're just deciding who pays for the plates and who washes them. Michaela picked up one of the pens and clicked it twice. Fast. Then she set it down like it had burned her. We can't commit to 2 nights a week every week, she said. We have plans. That's why there's a calendar with swap rules, I said, and pointed to the 24 hours clause. Text by the day before and we adjust. If you miss a night, you pay for a respite caregiver to cover. There's a sentence about that at the bottom. It's the only way it works. Rory's jaw worked. This is insane, he muttered. You could have just asked. I am asking, I said again. Clearly. The fridge hummed. The cake sat on its cardboard round with the frosting roses just starting to sag. Mum reached for the knife and then pulled her hand back, waiting. I turned the agreement so the signature lines pointed at them and left the pens where they were. You don't have to sign right this second, I said, keeping it fair. You have until the 5th and the transfers to hit. If we're doing option A, we'll all sign when that happens. Michaela stood, smoothed her dress, and pasted the smile back on like she'd remembered to put it on before we took a picture. Let's do cake, she said brightly, like nothing had happened. Happy birthday, Margaret. We sang. Mum blew out the candles with 2 easy puffs, and for that breath and a half, the room was just a room. After we ate, they gathered their Tupperware like always. Rory avoided the envelope with the tight focus of someone walking past a donation table. At the door, he said, We'll talk, which meant delay. Deadline's the 5th, I repeated, not unkind. Tomorrow morning, I start whatever plan matches what's in my bank app. Michaela didn't look at me when she said goodbye to Mom. Sugar sweet again? The door shut. The apartment went back to the sounds it makes when it's only us. I stacked the plates, washed the knife, and put the envelope back on the sideboard. I set Mum's pills for the night and helped her to her recliner. When she reached for my hand, I let her hold it until the commercial started and her eyes slipped closed. At 8:05 a.m. Monday, I clicked cancel on every single one. I woke up before my alarm and made Mom coffee in her favourite mug, the chipped one with the blue stripe. While it cooled, I opened my laptop at the kitchen table and pulled up the logins I'd used to set the autopays in the first place. Internet, water, phone, pharmacy, 4 tabs across the top like a to-do list. I toggled off autopay where it was a switch. For the pharmacy, I clicked remove card and confirmed twice. For the water account, the website kicked me to a phone number. I put it on speaker and set Mom's signed authorization form next to the keyboard. When the rep said, I can only talk to the account holder, I read the authorization line by line. She put me on hold, came back, and took my request to mail paper statements. Address on file, she asked. I gave Rory's apartment number, same one he'd arranged when he simplified things. She read it back. I said yes. She said a late fee would apply if payment wasn't received by close of business today. I looked at the clock. 8:05. Understood, I said. Mum watched the steam rise from her cup. Is this really what you want to do? She asked, not accusing, just checking. It's what I said I'd do, I said. I'm not disappearing. I'm just stopping the automatic parts that let everyone pretend it's free. She nodded, rubbed her wrist out of habit. even though the cast had been gone a month. "You're a good girl," she said, which is the kind of thing that makes you both 10 and 31 in the same breath. Before I left for work, I texted the group thread I'd made for logistics, me, Rory and Michaela. Autopays cancelled as discussed. Paper bills will come to your mailbox. Account numbers attached. I typed them out carefully, double-checked, and hit send. 2 blue check marks popped up. No replies. At the clinic, I did my usual. Badges on lanyards, screens beeping, phones ringing. "Murray Physical Therapy, this is Stella. How can I help you?" I handed a patient a clipboard and thought about the calendar on our kitchen counter. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Ride to Mum's PT at 1:15. This week, Tuesday was mine. I took my lunch early, drove Mum over, waited in the lobby with my book, and drove her home. I set her pillbox and wrote, "Hydrate," on a sticky note. The rest of the hours that used to be default, refills, dinner, dishwasher, stopped being assumed. That night, instead of collapsing into Mum's recliner, I drove across town to my studio. Tabitha caught me in the hallway with her grocery tote and a "How's your mama?" I thanked her again for coming by with her notary stamp on Sunday. "Neighbours help," she said, simple as that. Inside my place, the air had that closed-up apartment feeling, a little stale, like a closet that hadn't been opened since summer. I flicked the light. It came on. I turned on the tap. The water ran cold, then warm. The fridge hummed. I put fresh sheets on the bed and stood in the doorway for a second, looking at the smooth, unrumpled surface. It looked like an invitation instead of a placeholder. I walked to the corner market and bought eggs, yogurt, bananas, and one of those tiny jars of jam on sale. Back home, I filled the fridge like a person who intends to sleep where she eats. Angela texted, "How'd it go?" I sent her a picture of the eggs. She sent back a gold star and "proud of you." Wednesday, I covered the morning meds and set out breakfast before work, then left a note with the afternoon times and a stupid smiley face because I can't help myself. Thursday, I took her to PT again, per our old rhythm. Nobody texted to swap, and no transfers hit my account on the 1st or 5th. The bank app was a quiet, empty square. Sunday rolled around like it always does. They knocked at 5:30. Same timing, same bakery box. "Tiramisu," Michaela said, holding it up like a prize. Rory kissed Mum's cheek and asked if the game was on. We ate. I kept my voice level, made sure Mum's plate was full, asked Rory to take the trash out when he stood up. He did, because it was easy, and because it was in his hand. No one mentioned the envelope or the calendar. No one mentioned money. They packed leftovers into their usual containers, wiped their hands on the same dish towels, and left with a "We'll see you." I walked to the sink and ran water over the plates. Mum watched me from her chair. "You going to your place?" she asked. "I am," I said. "I'll be here in the morning. My nights are Tuesdays and Thursdays for now, like the calendar. I'll text when I'm on my way." She reached for my hand, squeezed. "I'm sorry you had to be the adult," she said. I squeezed back. "I'm sorry I waited so long to act like one." The week took on a new shape. My studio on the days I'd drawn for myself. Mum's apartment on the ones I'd claimed. I left my toothbrush in a zip bag instead of a cup on her sink. I packed my laptop back and forth. I turned off her lamps at 9 and my phone at 10. On the morning of the 10th, I was at my desk stamping today's date on a stack of intake forms when my phone buzzed on silent, face down. I didn't pick it up. I checked it at lunch. No messages from the group thread, just a news alert and a coupon from the grocery store. I knew the billing cycles and the mail's habits. Water bills print fast when you miss a due date. Late fees show up as a line item and as a red bar across the top of the page that neighbours can't not see when you sort your mail in the lobby. At some point between 11 and noon, a shutoff notice and a $35 late fee landed in Rory and Michaela's mailbox, right where they liked to pick up packages on their way upstairs. My phone lit up with Rory's name, while I was labelling paper charts for the afternoon evals. I let it buzz once, twice, then stepped into the back hallway between the copy machine and the mop sink. "What did you do?" he said, low, like he was hiding behind something. "There's a water shutoff notice and a $35 late fee in our mailbox." "I did exactly what I said I'd do," I said. "I turned off autopays and switched everything to paper billing to your address. Option B wasn't a bluff." He blew out a breath and lowered his voice further. I could hear the echo of his building's parking lot, the squeak of a cart, somebody's muffled conversation. "Michaela is mortified," he muttered. "She was sorting the mail, and that red bar was right on top." People saw. "The notice is a consequence, not a performance," I said. "The account numbers are in the text I sent. You can pay it online or by phone today." He didn't like being told there was a phone number he had to dial. "You could have just reminded me," he said. "You didn't have to—" "Rory," I said, and kept my voice in its work lane so I wouldn't tip over. "We had a deadline. Nothing posted. Option B started. If you want option A, here's what happens. Funds by 5 p.m. today, and we sign the plan tomorrow. One missed payment or night, we hire a respite nurse out of your pocket per the agreement." He was quiet long enough that I heard a car door slam somewhere on his end. "2 nights a week is a lot," he said finally, like we were negotiating vacation days. "It's the minimum that keeps Mum safe and me employed," I said. "You can swap with 24 hours notice. It's all in the calendar. If you can't make a night, you pay for coverage." "That's the only way it works." There was another pause. The wire in his voice tightened, then loosened. "Fine," he said, and hung up. I stood next to the mop sink until the copier went silent again. My hands were steady. I texted the group thread. "Today, you pay the water notice directly. By 5 p.m, transfer for option A as discussed. Tomorrow, signatures, 6:30 at Mum's." I attached a picture of the calendar page with the first 2 weeks blocked out, and the line at the bottom about respite care highlighted. 2 blue check marks. No reply. Back at the front desk, I slid into my chair and answered the next call. "Murray Physical Therapy. This is Stella." I checked the schedule, moved an eval to Thursday, when a therapist texted me she was running late and tucked the agreement copies into my bag between my lunch container and my keys. At 2, I took Mum to PT. Tuesdays were still mine, and listened to her chat with Lisa about the weather while the metronome clicked for her heel to toe. In the car after, she said, "He called," without asking how I knew. "He did," I said. "He didn't like the red bar on the notice." "Who would?" she said. She watched a pair of boys ride their bikes across the parking lot line like it was a tightrope, and then added, "Tomorrow we sign?" "Tomorrow, 6:30, I said. "If money hits by 5 today." She nodded, then looked at my hands on the wheel. "Your father used to get those red bars," she said, a small, sideways confession. "We never talked about them. I'm glad you talk." I shrugged one shoulder. Talking beats the water getting shut off. Back at her place, I set her pillbox and put dinner ingredients where she could see them for later. Pasta on the counter, jar sauce in view, because sometimes that's all the energy anyone has. I tidied the calendar on the fridge so the colour blocks were straight. Then I drove to my studio and sat on the edge of my bed with my shoes still on, watching the light crawl across the floor like it was trying out the room. Angela texted. "Update," I sent back. "Red bar did its job. Meeting tomorrow." She replied with a thumbs up and, "Hold the line." At 4:30, I took a walk around the block to shake off the clinic's fluorescent hum. The air smelled like rain that wasn't going to happen. I called the respite service I'd pulled quotes from last week and confirmed the hourly rate again, just so I could say the number out loud if I had to. The woman on the phone, Marcy, was kind and efficient. "We can do as-needed evenings with 24 hours notice," she said. "We invoice same night by email." I saved the contact as Respite Marcy and set an alert with the rate in the notes. At 4:49, I checked my bank app and closed it again. At 4:55, I put my phone face down on the table and made myself a piece of toast with the tiny jar of jam I'd bought. I wasn't going to hover. At 4:57, my phone dinged, the stupid, cheerful note it makes when a transfer lands. I didn't dance. I didn't cry. I just turned the screen over and looked at the exact amount, a number I knew by heart now, and let my shoulders drop a fraction. 3 dots popped up in the group thread, then disappeared. A minute later, paid water. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, I typed back. Then I set an alarm for 6, slid the care agreement into the first slot in my bag, and put my phone on Do Not Disturb. They showed up at 6:30 on the dot. No jokes, no flowers. Michaela's smile was zipped up tight. Rory kept his hands in his pockets, like they might touch something expensive. I had the care agreement on the table with sticky flags where the signatures went, 2 pens, and the calendar in a clear sleeve. Let's go through it, I said, and before anyone could say later, I read it out loud. I didn't rush. Option A, transfer of $112 on the 1st and $93 on the 15th every month. 2 evenings a week each. Whoever's night it is brings groceries for that night. Swaps allowed with 24 hours notice by text. If you miss a night, you pay for a backup caregiver. Rate is noted here. I tapped the line where I'd written Marcy's hourly in blue ink. One more thing. In Mom's home, no freeloader jokes. If someone slips, we stop and reset. Michaela's eyebrows jumped and then settled. A joke clause? She said, teasing like she was trying on a softer shirt. Really? Really, I said. This is her home? The point is to make it easier here, not meaner. Mum cleared her throat. That small sound that used to snap us into seatbelts. Enough with the little digs, she said to the air, not singling anyone out. It makes me tired. Rory's shoulders dipped a fraction. He looked at the totals, then at the calendar blocks. Tuesdays and Thursdays are you, he said to me, confirming what had been on the fridge since last week. For now, I said. You two have Mondays and Wednesdays. Sundays are dinner as usual. Friday and Saturday are flex. We can use them to swap if someone needs a weekend night. Michaela put her fingertip in the calendar and traced a square. We both work late sometimes, she said. I need flexibility. That's why there's a swap rule, I said, not unkind. Text me at least 24 hours ahead and we switch. If it's the same day and you can't make it, Marcy's on deck and you cover the invoice. No scrambling. Rory touched the pen, then set it down. You had Tabitha stamp Mum's signature, he said, as if saying it again might make it less real. I did, I said. It took 5 minutes and a glass of water. This part is just you two choosing option A and agreeing to what goes with it. Mum sat a little straighter. It helps me sleep, she said, knowing whose night it is, knowing the pills are set, that sort of thing. Michaela opened her mouth, bargain mode starting up, then looked at Mom and closed it. Can we at least make Wednesdays early? She said to me instead. Like dinner at 5:30? Fine by me, I said. Write it on the calendar. She wrote it in small, neat letters. For a second, her face softened, like there was relief tucked under all the performance. I slid the agreement toward them and clicked a pen. Initial here, and sign here, I said, tapping the flags. Check option A. Rory checked the box, initialed with his small, careful letters, and signed. Michaela took the pen, hovered, and then followed the flags. No theatrics. I signed on the caregiver line, dated the bottom, and slid a copy into a folder labelled for them. The original went back into my envelope, front pocket. Spare key, I said, and pushed one across the table on a key ring with an orange rubber cover so it wouldn't get lost in their bowl. For your nights. Lock up when you leave. Rory picked it up, surprised like he didn't expect the weight. I stood, walked to the hook by the door where I'd been leaving my copy out of habit, and pulled my key off it. It was my little ritual these past months. Hang it there, because I wasn't really coming and going. I put it back on my own ring next to my studio key. It made a different sound when it hit the other metal. A small, sure clink. Michaela glanced at the new clause again. We were joking, she said, defensively, and a little tired now. I know, I said. and now we're not. Mum let out a breath I didn't realise she'd been holding. Cake? She asked, trying a smile on. It fit better than last week. Tea, I said. I'll put the kettle on. We didn't linger. They asked a few logistics questions, where the pill cutter was, top drawer, what time to set the reminder on their phones, whether Lisa at PT knows them. She does. They left with the calendar photo on Michaela's phone and the folder under Rory's arm. At the door, Rory paused like he might try for a joke, and then thought better of it. We'll be here tomorrow, he said instead. Groceries and all. Thanks, I said. Text if you need to swap. When the door clicked shut, the apartment felt bigger. Mum tilted her head toward the envelope. You're keeping that? Until it's boring, I said. Then it can live in a drawer. She reached for my hand. That's my daughter, she said, softer than the last time she used the word enough, but with the same spine in it. The next day, my phone buzzed at noon. Michaela, a photo of a cart with strawberries, bread, and a rotisserie chicken, captioned, Tonight. I thumbs-upped it and went back to scheduling evals. At 4, I set Mum's pills, wrote, Dinner, they've got it, on a sticky note, and went to my studio instead of staying by default. I set my phone on the kitchen counter face down and turned on Do Not Disturb. I made scrambled eggs, ate them over the sink, and washed the pan immediately because I could. Around 8:30, I looked at the clock and didn't pick up my phone. I trusted the calendar and the ink and the fact that signatures change how people behave in small, enforceable ways. The first Thursday they covered, I locked my own door, slid between my clean sheets, and slept all the way through to my alarm. The new routine settled in like a pair of shoes you have to wear a few times before they stop rubbing. Monday and Wednesday nights, the spare key hit the lock at 5:30, and I heard grocery bags kiss the counter. Michaela sent a photo the first week of her and Mum playing gin rummy. Mum's lipstick smile small but real. The caption was Queen of Hearts, which sounded like her trying to make it light. I just hearted it and put my phone back down. On the first of the month, my phone chirped at 8:02 a.m. 112 landed. I paid the internet that afternoon from my card with the link I'd saved, took a screenshot of the confirmation and filed it in a folder on my laptop called House Paid. The paper statement showed up in Rory's mailbox 2 days later. He texted a photo of the front page with, Got it, like we were balancing a checkbook together instead of fighting about it. Mum got steadier on the stairs. Heel first, hand on the rail, me one step below just in case. I hate this, she muttered the first week, which meant she was doing it even though her pride hurt. By the third week, she stopped reaching for my shoulder and started narrating her own progress. Heel toe, look at me, she said, half laughing at herself. On a Wednesday midway through the month, Michaela texted at 3:12, Work emergency. We can't make it tonight. It was the same day, no 24 hours. I called Marcy. We can have someone there by 5, she said. 4 hours minimum, same rate. I'll be there to let them in, I said, and texted the group thread, activating respite for tonight per agreement. Invoice will go to you. At 5 on the dot, a woman named Kendra showed up with a smile and a tote. I introduced her to Mum, pointed to the pillbox, the list on the fridge, the panic button I hope none of us ever need. We'll play cards, Kendra said. And I make a mean cup of tea. Don't let her cheat, Mum said, perking up in a way that made me know I'd chosen right. I went back to my studio. At 8:15, my email pinged with the invoice from the service. I forwarded it to Rory and Michaela with one line. Please pay tonight. At 8:22, Michaela replied, Paid. In the morning, I saw the transfer in my account. No drama, just numbers. On the 15th, the second transfer hit. I paid the water and the phone, marked them green on my spreadsheet. The paper water bill, with the late fee from earlier printed as its own sad line, showed up in their mail again. No red bar this time. Rory sent a thumbs up emoji to the thread and a thanks for handling the pays. I didn't comment. I let the system speak. They slipped once on the joke clause. It was small, a reflex. Rory walked in with a bag of groceries, looked at the full table and said, "Guess we know who's eating for free tonight." But his voice caught on free, and he glanced at me. I just raised my eyebrows. Mum beat me to it. "Enough," she said, calm as a level. "Eat." "Right," he said, and he looked embarrassed in a way I hadn't seen on him since we were kids. The calendar did its job. On a Friday I was supposed to have, I swapped with them for Sunday because Angela had tickets to a show. I texted 24 hours ahead. Michaela wrote, "Sunday, our dinner," on the printout with a heart. Later, over coffees, Angela asked, "How's the envelope?" I took a picture of it living in the sideboard drawer and sent it to her. "Boring," I texted. She sent back a party horn emoji because boring was the goal. Tabitha caught me in the hallway and asked how Mum was. "Saw your brother in the elevator with a chicken and a loaf of bread," she said, amused. "Looked like he'd discovered the deli section." "He's learning," I said. "We all are." Mum started telling her own jokes again, the good kind. When she made it down the stairs without a pause, she rested at the bottom, shook her head and said, "If you put a tip jar there, I might contribute." No one joked about rent. No one needed to. Work stayed work. I answered phones, slid clipboards across the counter, and didn't hide in the parking lot to sort out billing calls because there weren't any crises to triage. At lunch, I walked, sometimes to the corner deli, sometimes nowhere, just to feel my feet moving forward without carrying anything. On a Monday night, I came by with pasta and a bag of salad because it was their evening, and sometimes you do nice things even when you don't have to. Michaela had the table set and the tea water warming. "Cards after?" she asked Mum, and it sounded less like proof and more like a plan. Before I left, I stood by the door hook out of habit. My key wasn't there. It was on my own ring, where it belonged. The ring felt right in my palm, the weight balanced. I kissed Mum's cheek. "I'll see you tomorrow for PT," I said. "Text if you need to swap." "Go home," she said, smiling. "To your home?" I drove to my studio with the windows cracked. The air didn't smell like a hospital or a bakery. It smelled like my block. I let myself in, set my bag on the chair, and didn't do anything heroic. I made an omelette. I washed the pan. I put my phone on the counter face down, and then, because I could, turned it to Do Not Disturb. Justice didn't look like fireworks. It looked like $112 on the 1st and $93 on the 15th. It looked like a calendar with ink that didn't smear, a respite invoice paid without a fight, a water bill without a red bar. It looked like my mum getting down the stairs and calling me from the bottom to say, "I did it." It looked like me deciding not to be the permanent guest in my own life, locking my door from the inside and sleeping in my own bed on a Thursday because the plan said I could.